بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمد رسول الله. أشهد أن محمد رسول الله. حي على الصلاة. حي على الصلاة. حي على الفلاح. حي على الفلاح. الله أكبر، الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله.
أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اليوم بئس الذين كفروا ومن دينكم فلا تخشوهم واخشون. اليوم أكملت لكم دينكم وأتممت عليكم نعمتي ورضيت لكم الإسلام دينا. This is a part of verse 3 of chapter 5, Al-Ma'idah. And it says, the English translation is, if I can find it, this day have those who disbelieve despaired of your religion. So fear them not and fear me. This day have I perfected for you your religion and completed my favor on you and chosen for you Islam as a religion. Sadaqallahul Aliyyul Azim. Now, the root of the word deen that's been used is Bal Ya Nun. And it's used in many different ways in the Holy Quran. For example, it's used in Surah Fatiha, Maliki Yawmiddin. And there it is not translated as the master, the owner of the day of religion or owner of the day of Islam. It is translated as master of the day of judgment. And so deen actually means, deen itself, dal, ya, noon, actually means, it signifies taking a loan, borrowing something. And it is used in this sense in chapter 4, verse 12, where God gives us guidance about wills and loans and all that kind of thing. But when we talk about ad-deen, then it means obedience, it means reward, it means, and as a metaphor, it means religious law. But it also means the way you conduct yourself, the way you live your life. And and in that context, for example, in the Holy Quran, it says, هُوَ الَّذِي أَرْسَلَ رَسُولَهُ بِالْهُدَى وَدِينِ الْحَقِّ. Chapter 9, verse 33. That he it is who sent. Who did he send? The messenger. And what did the messenger bring? Guidance and deen al-haq. The guidance is the Holy Quran. So what is deen al-haq? And you could say that it is how to live your life. It is the sunnah of the Holy Prophet Muhammad. But the interesting thing, and this is a by the way comment, this is not a topic of the today's khutbah, because you might have noticed on the announcement that you received that the title of today's khutbah is The Perfect Way. But the aside comment that I want to make is that if the religion has been perfected, then why would we need another prophet to come? You only need someone to appear when the guidance they have, the teaching they have, what they have is not working properly. But this verse says, today I perfected your religion. So why would another prophet need to come? Whether it is an old prophet which some people bring down from heavens, or it's a new prophet that some others bring down, what are they going to do? So we do not need another prophet after the Holy Prophet Muhammad. As the second verse that I recited to you shows, he brought the Holy Quran and the perfect way to live your life, Deen al-Haq. So Deen means to conduct your life, to show how you can live in the country that you're in and under the circumstances that you're in. And for that, I turn to the conditions these days. We are in the United Kingdom and we are facing a complete lockdown. But what I want to show you is how the government dealt with this lockdown. The first time the lockdown was announced, one of the things that the government did was to announce that people are entitled to ask their lenders for payment holidays. So that if you have a mortgage, you could ring up your bank or building society or whatever the lender was and say to them, sorry, for whatever reason, I cannot pay my mortgage. And they were not allowed to say no. They were not allowed to say no. They had to agree. Now, what does the Holy Quran say about this? There is a specific verse in the Holy Quran which deals with this situation, which says that if someone has borrowed money from you and they're having difficulty repaying it, don't be harsh. Don't be harsh. Don't insist on immediate payment. Give them time. What has the government done? Put this verse of the Holy Quran into practice to save the economy. What more perfection do you need? That in the desert of Arabia, a man appears and he says, this is divine guidance. It's up to you whether you want to follow it or you don't want to follow it. And that divine guidance is still applicable 1500 years later. Can there be any greater example of perfection? People go to visit the Taj Mahal and they say it was built so many hundreds of years ago and it is perfect and it is beautiful and we've come to admire it. But this was 1500 years ago this guidance was given. Practical guidance about how to conduct your economy and your life. But there's other guidance in the Holy Quran that is relevant to this time. What does the Holy Quran say about gambling? It says, do not gamble. But gambling is allowed in this country. Gambling is allowed. Not just in this country, but in the whole of the West. And what has happened? What has happened during this period? People have sat at home. They haven't got anything to do. And nowadays you can get gambling websites. You can download them onto your laptop, onto your PC, on even your mobile phone. And people sat at home and they gambled away. They gambled away the money that they did not have because they weren't going into work. Even the furlough scheme only allowed for 80% of a person's salary to be paid. Some of them just lost money for that period. But what about the others who became addicted to gambling? If the government had gone one step further, and if not permanently, then certainly during this period of lockdown had banned gambling, that would have been beneficial to millions of families. What is the other thing that has happened? Consumption of alcohol has gone up. And the two are really linked. People have sat at home, they've had nothing to do, so what have they done? They drank and they gambled. So they've lost money on both. What does the Holy Quran say about alcohol? And that's the amazing thing. The Holy Quran says, yes, there are some aspects of alcohol which are beneficial, but the harm it does is greater than the beneficial effects. We know in those days, you couldn't go down in 1500 years ago when this was revealed to the Holy Prophet Muhammad, you could not go down to your local Tesco's or Asda or whatever and buy a disinfectant. You used alcohol to disinfect wounds. In the same way, we even have now photographs that the doctors, because there wasn't any anesthetic available, if an operation had to be carried out, they would use alcohol, not just to sanitize various things, but also as an anesthetic. But despite that, the Holy Quran says that its harm is more than any benefit that you might get out of it. And again, this is what's become apparent during this lockdown. Not only has money been wasted on alcohol, and that led to gambling or increased gambling, but it also had led to domestic disputes and domestic violence. All those things that Quran forbade because they were allowed at this time, their results became apparent. The charities which are involved in dealing with the consequences of these things, you have Gamblers Anonymous, Alcoholics Anonymous, and so on. The calls to them, Childline, which deals with abuse of children, and so on. All of them, the number of calls that they received increased. What else is a perfect religion going to do? Here it says perfect way of life. As I said to you, deen, generally translated as religion, has many meanings. What else is the perfect way of life going to do? It is going to teach you how to conduct yourself under all circumstances. This is why the Holy Quran is called a book for all time. Because whatever situation you find yourself in, it has guidance on how to conduct yourself, how to live your life in that situation. But that can only happen if all of us give the Holy Quran the importance that it deserves. If we read it, if we try and understand it, if we try and find guidance from it. Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, the promised Messiah, whatever problem he had, he would take the Holy Quran and he would read it from cover to cover. From first page to last page. And he'll keep making notes of verses where there was guidance or instruction about what to do. And then he would make a speech or write an article or a book or whatever. But we've forgotten to do that. We prefer to go and ask someone and then follow whatever that person says, right or wrong. Right or wrong. How many times have we had this? Do this because Maulvi Sahib says so. Someone comes running in a state of panic. Have you done this? Have you done that? Why? Maulvi Sahib says you can't do this. And the question doesn't occur to the Maulvi Sahib, where does the Holy Quran say that we should do this or not do this? Please give us a reference. It reminds me of the verse of the Holy Quran where the Quran says, and they have taken their religious leaders to be gods besides Allah. And those gods besides Allah lead people astray. And why do they lead them astray? Because it is in their interest. Where does the Holy Quran talk about kuls and 7 days and 40 days and barsis and all these things? And why are they done? Because the religious leaders who are called to conduct these ceremonies, they're paid. And if these ceremonies were stopped, then a large part of their payment will disappear. The Quran teaches us the perfect way. But we'll only find what that perfect way is if we actually take the trouble to struggle and strive and pay attention to the Holy Quran and try and understand it. On the Day of Judgment, when we are asked for our deeds, the answer that Maulvi Sahib told me to do this will not be acceptable. Because God will say, well, I sent you guidance. Why didn't you look into that? Before the Quran had been revealed, perhaps you could use this excuse. I asked A, B, C. But when God has revealed how you are to live, then what excuse do you have for going to someone else? And I've given you 3 examples of the current situation where people in this country, in the United Kingdom, have benefited from following what the Holy Quran says, and where people in United Kingdom have suffered financially and emotionally by ignoring the guidance and instructions of the Holy Quran. We are in January. This is the first Jummah in January. And what happens at the beginning of January? There are thousands of people who start on a Dry January campaign. And for these 30 days, we are not going to drink alcohol. And then they say, when we were drinking, we felt lethargic, we felt unwell, and so on and so forth. But within a few days of giving up drinking, although initially they felt bad because of the withdrawal symptoms, I guess, they say they're now feeling better. They feel healthier. They feel they have more energy. Well, why just restrict it to Dry January? Why not carry it throughout for the whole year? People say the Holy Quran dictates. Well, so does the British government. I frequently ask people, oh, well, the Holy Quran interferes in our personal affairs. To which I respond by saying, the British government has passed a law. The lone Western governments have. You can only have one wife. What difference does it make to the government how many wives a person has? Isn't that interfering in their personal affairs? But these are just excuses. I wish our brothers would think about these things and bring them to the notice of whatever country or city or town they're living in. This is how Islam will spread when people see that its teachings are applicable even now. That its teachings are applicable even now. Islam will not spread by the example that is generally set by killing people and blowing up buildings and so on. Show people how they can benefit from following its teachings, and they will come and join you. It doesn't matter what their nationality is, whether they're Americans or Germans or French or whatever. We have many people from these countries who embrace Islam of all colors, because the benefit of living your life this way is shown to them, rather than just talking about cutting off people's heads and killing them. Barakallahu lana wa lakum fil Quranil Azim wa nafa'ana wa iyyakum bil ayati wa zikril hakim innahu ta'ala jawadun kareemun malikun barrufur rahim. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. Nahmaduhu wa nasta'inuhu wa nastaghfiruhu wa nu'minu bihi wa natawakkalu alayhi wa na'udhu billahi min shururi anfusina wa min sayyiati a'malina. Man yahdihillahu fala mudilla lahu wa man yudlilhu fala hadiya lahu. Wa ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu. Allahumma salli अला मुहम्मदिन व अला आलि मुहम्मदिन कमा सल्लैता अला इब्राहीम व अला आलि इब्राहीम इन्नका हमीदुम मजीद। अल्लाहुम्मा बारिक अला मुहम्मदिन व अला आलि मुहम्मदिन कमा बारकता अला इब्राहीम व अला आलि इब्राहीम इन्नका हमीदुम मजीद। अल्लाहुम्मा अंसुर मन नसर दीन मुहम्मदिन सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम वजअलना मिनहुम। अल्लाहुम्मा अंसुर मन खज़ल दीन मुहम्मदिन सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम वला तजअलना मिनहुम। इबादल्लाह रहमुकुमुल्लाह। इन्नल्लाह यअमुरु बिल अदलि वल इहसानि व इताइ ज़िल कुर्बा व यनहा अनिल फ़हशाइ वल मुनकरि वल बग़ि याइज़ुकुम लअल्लकुम तज़क्करून। उज़्कुरुल्लाह यज़्कुरकुम वदऊहु यस्तजिब लकुम वलज़िक्रुल्लाहि अकबर वल्लाहु यअलमु मा तस्नऊन।
अल्लाहु अकबर अल्लाहु अकबर। अशहदु अल्ला इलाहा इल्लल्लाह अशहदु अन्ना मुहम्मदर रसूलुल्लाह। हय्यस सलाह हय्यल फलाह इकामतिस सलाह इकामतिस सलाह। अल्लाहु अकबर ला इलाहा इल्लल्लाह।
अल्लाहु अकबर। अल्हम्दुलिल्लाहि रब्बिल आलमीन अर्रहमानिर रहीम मालिकि यौमिद्दीन इय्याका नअबुदु व इय्याका नस्तईन इहदिनस सिरातल मुस्तकीम صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين ألم تر كيف فعل ربك بأصحاب الفيل ألم يجعل كيدهم في تدليل وأرسل عليهم طيرا أبابيل ترميهم بحجارة من سجيل فجعلهم كعصف مأكول। الله أكبر। समी अल्लाहु लिमन हमिदा। अल्लाहु अकबर। अल्लाहु अकबर। अल्लाहु अकबर। अल्लाहु अकबर। अल्हम्दुलिल्लाहि रब्बिल आलमीन अर्रहमानिर रहीम मालिकि यौमिद्दीन इय्याका नअबुदु व इय्याका नस्तईन इहदिनस सिरातल मुस्तकीम सिरातल लज़ीना अनअमता अलैहिम गैरिल मग़दूबि अलैहिम वलद्दॉलीन आमीन। इन्ना अअतैनाकल कौसर फसल्लि लिरब्बिका वन्हर इन्ना शानियका हुवल अबतर। Allahu Akbar. Sami Allahu liman hamida.
ربنا
Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Astaghfirullah. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for joining us for our Friday service. I want to remind you to pray, to remember in your prayers all those who are sick or having any other difficulties, particularly a very valuable member of our center, Malak Izaz Elahi Sahib, is very unwell. So I request you all to remember him in your prayers. Until we meet again, I take my leave of you. Assalamu alaikum, Khuda Hafiz, and goodbye.